I was recently talking to myself about writing things in a notebook as opposed to in my computer, and lo and behold, I took pages of notes in my notebook, and now I feel like I wish they were in my computer so they were in one spot, because I don't really know if I want to go into all of them right now. Because I'm seeing a few things, and I'm not sure if they're true, but I'm seeing that hitting the ceiling, or really getting to the edge of beyond one's previous perceptions, really pushing the boundaries of what has been perceptible to this particular individual, can cause one to really bottom out. And it's happened to me numerous times before, and the bottoming out is usually some kind of crisis and that energetic, scary feeling in my heart. So yesterday I was tired, I took a nap, and today I was tired too, and I was trying to nap, and I was laying down, and my brain was sort of active still, but I was partly asleep, and my brain really saw that we are the world, or as Krishnamurti says, I am the world and the world is me. And my body got just a tiny bit freaked out, like what do I do with that? What do I do with seeing that? Because the brain is used to operating based on I am the ego and the ego is me. So there's a little bit of fear, because how does one operate in this world based on one mode of operation and then start to see this other mode, and that mode gets warped into something that is not really what it is. And I've had a lot of insights into that today, and I don't know if I really want to go into them. I've also had an insight into how this is sort of like seasickness, but instead of SEA, SEE. Not that it's a sickness, I just thought using the word seasickness is kind of funny, because one is almost made ill by how much one can see. And I'm not talking about ill in terms of mental illness, but it's just difficult to know how to navigate when one feels like they see a lot more than what we're conditioned to see. So in saying that, I feel like I've been talking about embodying versus just having dialogue, which is sort of more of a mental activity, and going from seeing to being. So a lot of my energy going through my brain is diverted to perception and actually seeing into things and seeing more and unfolding things and then talking about it. And I've sort of made myself not one-dimensional, but that is the main way that this other energy is being utilized to perceive. But if I could see that maybe I've seen enough, and I think that's what happens sometimes when I hit the ceiling, is I've seen enough, and the brain sort of reacts by retracting back down to quite a low level of consciousness, which happens in a way because what one sees when one sees too much can be scary. It can really show the brain how all of this works, and when it sees that, it's almost like it has to go back to the beginning. It's like game over, start again. Because when one sees that, one really has to just forget it. And I think that's what I'm seeing, is just forget what I just saw and move on, not necessarily go deeper into it and extrapolate what that means based on what I feel I just saw. And I don't know if that makes any sense. And I made some notes about it, but I'm just trying to talk longer instead of always looking at my notes. So I might type my notes into the computer and then talk about some of them, and again, keep telling myself to start moving some of this energy towards being. So I just spent like an hour singing some songs, and that is a way to just utilize some time, a whole hour, to just sing, which would actually prevent these other perceptions, because the mind and body and being is being used for that. So I actually feel like moving this energy towards being, like singing and things that are really embodied. And I've talked about this forever, but I'm really seeing why this might be necessary, because otherwise that energy is always going to be seeing more and more. But if I can move into being, like singing or dancing or these embodied things, then that dimension won't be as active, because the energy is always there. So the energy is there if I'm singing, or if I'm pretending I know how to dance. But by using that energy to sort of pretend I know how to dance or sing, maybe I'll actually get better at those things. And it's not like I have to or anything. I'm just seeing that this seeing is so infinite, and it could just go on forever. This brain could just keep going on seeing things and making metaphors and extrapolations and things forever. And it's not as fun if other people don't see it too. So one can go into one's own perceptual reality tunnel of seeing more and more, but that actually gets one further away from the world that we all see together, or seemingly see all together. And so, yeah, I feel like now in talking to myself, some of the context I created for myself will actually come together as something that creates an understanding for myself to do whatever the next thing is, because I'm seeing that if I keep talking to myself like this, it'll just keep going. And I don't necessarily want to be sitting, which is actually the leading cause of death, and just talking to myself, which is not necessarily the only way I would like to use my voice. Maybe I can sing, and that was my dream as a child, and I can't at the moment. I realize that. But I didn't necessarily think when I started talking to myself that I could talk to myself for an entire year and get deeper and deeper into things and see more and more and say more and more and say a lot of new things to myself. But that's what happened just by unfolding that. So I'm wondering if the same can happen with something else that actually turns off perception for a while. Because, like I said, it hits the ceiling and then I bottom out. And I feel actually today like I could bottom out, and I need to prevent that to some degree. And I feel like the hearty nutritionals will definitely help. I took an extra vitamin C, so I'll probably take 4 today. I took hawthorn for my heart. So, yeah, and I really saw this mechanism of how people get warped into mental patients, and it was just like, ooh. So, feeling like embodying is important too, because otherwise, if I'm all in this dialogue and perception, and I go home and I'm just trying to share perceptions and wanting to get into that, then that could be perceived as intense. Whereas if I move into fun and embodying fun things in the next month, if I can just go back and have fun, that's what I want to do, go back and have fun with my family and friends, not be all in my head and trying to make dialogue and things. There are things that I would like to create, and today I was thinking, oh, I'll just like get planning what I want to create, but then it's like going back with this motive of wanting to put things on people or like get people to help me or something, and I don't know if that's the right orientation to go back with. Just go back celebrating being back and see what happens. So I really don't know. And I feel like too, when I hit the ceiling, it's time to rest. So interestingly enough, I've been tired and wanting to nap, and that's sort of a sign. Rest. And I actually feel like one of the things that's good about the psych ward is one is just resting in the same place, not doing much, not participating in the world, and actually letting the world catch up a little bit, because the world's still out there turning and spinning and doing everything that it does, yet one is sort of sitting and not moving. So I think there is this period of unfolding and this period of not moving, which could be more like not moving the mind, not perceiving, or also not moving, but just resting the body too. So when I feel like I'm getting to that point where it could almost be a crisis without feeling like a crisis because I'm on the Hardy Nutritionals. It's good to just rest and be more still and be more in my body. So I'm just seeing that this could be a sign. So there's something about keeping oneself away from the psych ward, but then there's also acknowledging that there's certain things that happen there that could be good, like just resting, which doesn't require a psych ward, but it does require one to see that one needs to rest, even if one doesn't feel like one needs to. But there could be signs that I need to rest, even if I'm not necessarily tired, though I have actually been tired. So I see what I'm saying there. Resting more, hopefully, not just resting, but getting into things that will block some of these perceptions and create neurology for other things besides just talking to myself. And I also wonder if it's time to break the relationship with the self that I think that I am. I've created this dialogue self version of me, always talking and perceiving, but maybe it's time to let that go and start fresh. So I'm wondering about that. And today I've seen a lot about relationship and how we really exist in relationship, and I don't think I'll go into that now, but I'll type it up or maybe I'll make another video about it. We'll see. So the seasickness is a seeing that makes one walk on shaky ground. It's not just the ground of the material world, but there's this other ground that one can be in contact with. Not just our feet in contact with the physical ground, but our brain is in contact with this metaphysical or quantum order of some kind. But at the same time, one needs to keep one's feet on the ground too. And a friend told me a saying, before enlightenment, carry water, chop wood. After enlightenment, carry water, chop wood. So keeping in contact with the body is very important. And I actually had an experience yesterday when I was drying my hair. I kind of flip my hair upside down and dry the roots quickly so it doesn't dry really flat to my head, because I could let it air dry here because I'm in California. But there's a lot of mornings when it's actually cold, so I just dry the roots and the rest dries really quick. But anyways, I was looking at the ground and all of a sudden I felt like I wasn't centered in my head, and there was this hair on the floor of the bathroom and it got all blurry and kind of like hologram looking, and I was just like, whoa. It was just kind of jarring in a way. But maybe those are things that I'll need to get used to, just like that perception my brain had when I was having a nap today. And just drop it. I talked to myself about just drop it and move on. And the seasickness is from the motion and the movement of the moment of relationship. So when the ego sort of is scrambled or not so firmly in place, one is actually moved more by this movement of relationship, which is the space between us. It's not this pre-calculation going on to move us, but we're actually moving, taking in consideration the other without actually thinking I'm considering the other. So it feels a little disorienting because we're moving, but there's other factors that are moving us besides just what our programs and the stories in our head are telling us to do. So it's the movement of relationship to the moment and to others, and not the movement of the ego. And I talked to Hardy Nutritionals today, and they suggested that I taper off the Benadryl because I've been kind of tired these last 2 days. So they suggested cutting it down by 1/4 every 4 days. So I'll do 4 days of 3/4 of Benadryl and 4 days of half, 4 days of 1/4, and then I will be off as long as I can still fall asleep okay. Because that's what happens as the nutrition takes over. The medications sort of aren't doing their thing because the nutrition is doing it first, so that's sort of left circulating in the body and maybe causing more drowsiness and things. So I will do that, and that's kind of exciting that by the time I go home I might be off of everything. And it feels a little scary too, but then I remember, okay, I have these nutrients and they seem to be toning everything down. Like that perception when I was trying to sleep was kind of freaky, but it didn't really freak me out. It sort of was scary in theory, just like hearing that there's a black widow spider somewhere where I often go is like, oh, that's scary, but not actually being terrified physically. And the lady that does the ozone therapy emailed me back, and she said she actually has a bit of a bipolar disorder and uses the oxygen ozone machine in her ears with a stethoscope, and it helps. And I'm not going to try that this time, but it was interesting to learn. So I feel like I need to change my relationship with myself from this personal seeing and dialogue, which isn't really personal because I'm recording it for one, and for two, I feel like when a brain sees in this way, it still subtly affects the whole, and Krishnamurti has talked about that too. If one is perceiving an ego consciousness and moving about the day in that, one is actually contributing in an additive way to the collective ego consciousness. But if one is seeing a different way, then one is adding to that form of seeing in the collective. It's not personal. It adds to the relationship. It changes in our relationships. So it's not a bad thing, but I feel like I want to go from that to just being more playful and celebrating, because that's a lot more fun. And can I build a new... So I want to say the universe, hey universe, I don't just want this body to be a vehicle of sitting here and talking to myself. I don't want this body to just be sitting here, and I don't want this voice to just be talking to myself. And I say just, I'm doing other things, of course. I'm living my life too, but this energy is creating this dialogue with myself, and can some of that creative energy create a different creation? And so I invite the universe to move into that, and I invited that rapper voice, and I don't know if I like that, so now I'm inviting this singing thing, and it's sort of meaningless. It doesn't mean anything, and I spend a lot of my time making meaning, and meaning is so infinite that that could go on forever, whereas singing, the meaning is just to sing and enjoy it, not to try to make meaning beyond the activity itself. So singing and dancing, please, universe. And I feel like the trouble is I'm seeing more and more without being more and more. And this is still changing my being, but it's gone to a point where I'm so embodied as this person who has perceptions and talks about them with myself that I would like to explore other dimensions. And I actually signed up for a 1-hour webinar by Ken Wilber on Sunday, and I haven't followed any of his work for eons, but we'll see what he has to say. It's something about superhumanness, and I'm interested in that, of course, because seeing more and more will just likely short circuit my brain, whereas singing, I don't feel, will do that. And I feel like the self-dialogue has removed a lot of my blindness, but I also feel like this blindness must move to kindness. So if I'm just seeing in order to see, but not see in order to be kind. So I remember asking the question before, in order to what? So I used to do a lot of healthy things and get more healthy and more healthy and more healthy and more healthy, and then I realized, more healthy in order to what? For what? Just to be more healthy? Of course I could keep being more healthy and more healthy, but for what? And that's when I started putting my energies into something else. And now I haven't really been being healthy, but I'm seeing more and talking more, but seeing more and talking more in order to what? And maybe there is no what. And that's the thing with singing. Singing is just in order to sing, and maybe talking is just in order to talk, but I've talked a lot, and I'd like to use that energy for something else, and I'm pretty sure I've said that in a million ways, but I'm really trying to convince myself and the universe to open up other dimensions. And actually, when I was in my first experience of map consciousness, all dimensions were open, or a lot of them, and there was singing, and there was dancing, and there was rollerblading in crazy creative ways. So I need to be more choiceless, more non-directional, because right now I'm in this direction of talking to myself. So I want to turn seeing into kindness, otherwise my heart will eventually get heavy with everything that I see. So can that seeing be translated into some kind of kind action? And then I'm back at the altruism again in a different way. Compassionate action. And I remember once hearing Dion Vimal saying, "I insist you do meaningless things." And it was part of a talk, but that line stuck out to me. Yet here I've been making all this meaning. And at the same time I've said this meaning is meaningless. As soon as I make a meaning, it is meaningless. So I just want to go into other meanings, like different expressions of the body. And not because I feel I have to express, like I actually want to sing or anything. It's just there's this energy and it's going to do something. And it seems like it just wants to talk. And we'll see if it wants to do something else. And maybe it doesn't. Maybe it just wants to talk. But I will at least move my body to see, to investigate, or to stop seeing at least and sing or something. I need to also stay limited. And Krishnamurti also says you must give your life to understand your life. And I feel like that's what this self-dialogue has been for sure. So maybe I'll need to keep going with this. Maybe I do need to talk about everything I see. We'll see. Things grounded in reality. I went to the store and I bought some floss because I was out. And I also bought some soap because I'm running low. And I bought some water because I've been drinking reverse osmosis water mainly. And it just feels so dead and I'm feeling dehydrated in this 33 to 37 degree heat wave right now. So I got some pH 8.8 water that also has minerals and electrolytes in it, and then just another thing of glacier spring water, just to see if getting some better hydration will help. And I also bought some krill oil because I don't think I'm getting enough omega-3s, and I'm also feeling like my brain could maybe just use that support with some of the subtle things I've experienced, which are really subtle, but they're also related to this memory and ecphoric sensation thing and being non-linear. And I was thinking, there's often talk about non-linear. Well, what's non-linear? Perhaps it's quantum. So instead of saying non-something, I'll just try and say quantum. So it might help with this quantum aspect of the brain, and just having that EPA and DHA could be good. So I just got a small bottle of krill oil. I think it only lasts like 2 weeks. So I might just try to see if it helps a little bit, just to give my brain a boost. So I'm taking quite a few supplements right now, but maybe it's also a gesture towards my body that I would like to take care of it. I think there is an epigesturetic effect, which could be similar to placebo effect, which is just kind gestures towards the body. Doesn't matter what it is, it's symbolic of actually wanting to take care of the body and live longer and support the brain, etc. And one other thing I'll share, because I really just want to make one video today, is that yesterday I wrote down that now that I'm off meds, it makes having a baby possible, because I never imagined myself ever wanting to carry a child with medication in my system. Of course, doctors will say some meds are safe, but I still just wouldn't want to. If I'm on medication, I just don't feel that I'm going to have a baby. And everyone's different. People can make their own decisions. And so now that I'm off meds, it opens up that possibility. Even though right now I don't feel like I would like one, but now I feel like maybe after a couple of years of being off meds, maybe I would want one, and maybe then my body would be in the condition to maybe carry a child as I would want. So, don't want to have one at this point, but now it actually opens that possibility. Because if I all of a sudden wanted to, but I was taking medications, I probably... So here's my krill oil. And the interesting thing is, I flipped back to the beginning of the notes I wrote in my notebook, and I saw a baby is possible. And then after that, starting yesterday, I wrote all of this, which I may or may not type out. I may just work through it slowly and then try and type notes, because I don't want notes in books and all over the place in my computer. So we'll see what happens. I'm not going to do that tonight, but I did write that down. And then the interesting thing about that is, you know, when you watch a YouTube video, there are videos in the side that, what do you want to watch next? And mine are usually Krishnamurti or some kind of music that I was listening to. But then this one said, is it ever the right time to have a baby? And I've never seen anything like that in the sidebar of my YouTube. And I was just looking at the question again today, and then I looked at my YouTube and it was there when I was watching a video. And I was like, what the heck? I swear technology responds to our brains now. It's really integrated, and I've already had experiences like that too with different things that have happened with technology. It's not a separate thing. It's part of consciousness, and technology could have some kind of consciousness. And I talked about the algorithm that makes things pop up in the computer that we might want to buy based online now, even if we're not. Because it's all in the airwaves, it's everywhere. So how do we know that technology can't eventually pick up on things, and just me thinking something or looking at something will make it pop up on YouTube? And maybe that technology already exists and they just really haven't said anything. I don't know, but technology responds to consciousness for sure. And technology is just communication, and we communicate with each other through technology. And it's, yeah, I haven't figured that out, but I just thought it was interesting. So I will include the little sidebar snippet to show that it was there. And to me, that was just weird. It's like, think about something or ask a question, or even saying, oh, I haven't been writing and I don't speak as fluidly, and maybe it's because I'm not writing. And then the next day, all I do is write, and I haven't written anything in probably a month. So I feel like when one's brain is in that state of possibilities, whatever one says will show up, whether it's through one's own action in one's handwriting, all one thing, and technology is part of life. And so yeah, I just feel that, yeah, I've had that experience before where technology responds in freaky ways, and it's kind of freaky, but yeah, technology just might be part of the fabric of reality, and we kind of figure out how to utilize it, but maybe it's always been there. Maybe even there's a technology within us. And yeah, I don't want to get into that. That's something that I haven't really gone into too much, but to me it's sort of a clue of how, when one is in the state of possibilities, there's many possibilities for things to show up, not just a person and living things, but perhaps even technology. My old man's got a problem. Oh, I didn't know it was still recording, but it is. So I will show you this pretty bouquet that I made. This is magic right here. What's your problem? Oh, my mustache smells good.